So, welcome back. I hope you had a quick coffee, connected with a few fellow participants, and are now ready for our next session. So, this is a very important session. It is pretty much the session that sets the foundation for Flagship Day. This is divided into two parts, and we are going to discuss the future of Indo-German collaboration at a policy level and then at an implementation level. So, for the first part, I would like to welcome Dr. Caroline Silva Garbade, Desk Officer Digital Networking at the German Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Energy. Welcome.
Good morning, Diksha. Good morning, everyone.
So nice to see you. And our second speaker is Dr. Ajay Garg, Senior Director, Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology from India. Welcome, Dr. Garg.
Thank you, Disha. So very delighted to be part of this. And hello, Carolyn.
Hi, Dr. Gag. Very good to see you.
See you there.
So, we spoke a lot about different ecosystem partners that enable Indo-German collaborations, and I think this is a question that is open to both of you. And if you could give us a little bit of overview in terms of what are the few intergovernment policies that have been implemented or steps that have been taken in the past few years for Indian and German collaboration. So I would like to start with Caroline.
Thank you, Diksha. So we saw some quite important steps in the last year. I was lucky to implement some of them from India because I joined the German embassy in Delhi in 2015 and worked there until 2019. So I witnessed some quite important steps that we undertook. So the first one was that we agreed with the Indian side, and the partners were my ministry and MITI, so the Ministry of Information Technologies and Electronics from Mr. Garg. In 2017, we founded the Cooperation on Digitization, where we also agreed on looking into what can we do more when it comes to startups exchange. And then in 2019, we had another MOU, this time with the Ministry of Commerce, and we founded this cooperation in startups, being Startup India the main partner with this. On the Indian side and on the German side, it's GINSEP and our German accelerator. And now I'm more than happy that we have the third step, which is a JDI between MITI's incubator and GINSEP. I think this kind of narrows it down. We came from a very broad agreement that we want to cooperate, and now we really have two very defined partners that will cooperate together. I guess that Mr. Garg wants to add something, with whom I worked a lot on this issue when I was in India.
So thank you, Carolyn. I agree with you completely that Indo-German partnership on digitalization has been strengthening for various steps being taken, whether it was a joint agreement on digitalization or a startup to startup connect. But to start off, let's understand the leadership from both the sides believes in a strong Indo-German partnership. And they believe that digitalization is one very important pillar that actually turns this partnership into a strategic relationship. They believe that we too are very strong democracies. We have common value systems, common goals, and we have complementaries with respect to what we can do. And they see that digitalization is a very important step forward to actually convert this partnership into a very strong relationship. We, as part of the implementation group, whether it's you, Caroline, from the German side, or whether me from the Indian side, have got a definite agenda to cover with regard to this. As far as India, we consider Germany as an important partner in terms of technology. We consider Germany and Indian relationship to set a course for future, whether it's related to how data needs to be shared across borders or how data privacy rules need to be framed, whether it's related to how we create an atmosphere where monopolization is not the key forward to digitalization, but all important stakeholders in the innovation ecosystems have an equitable role to play. I believe the partnership on startups, the present partnership between a mighty startup hub and Ginsel are the ways forward in which we are trying to provide a level playing field to strengthen this relationship, rather than leave it to the governments or read it to few monopoly players to take advantage of this very strong partnership. Ours is an inclusive and a committed relationship. That is the way I look at it. Thank you.
Wow. So that pretty much gave a great overview on the Indo-German collaboration side. And now, Dr. Caroline, I would like to focus a bit on the German startup ecosystem particularly and the policies that have been initiated in the past few years. So if you could give an overview of that and then tell us, how do you really answer the question of why collaboration with India when it comes to internationalization?
Well, yes, we indeed put quite an engagement in startup policies in the last year. Even the economic minister appointed a special person in charge of startup policy, Mr. Jasombeck, whom you already welcome to your to the Startup Week, who really engaged a lot with the startups and tried to put their needs into policies and politics. So we really advanced a lot in the startup policies in the last years. One important step was that we grew the possibilities for financing for the startups. In Germany, we already have quite a good framework for early and mid-stage financing, but there was still quite a big lack in later stage financing. So in financing rounds over 50 million euro. This we hope to tackle with our future fund, which is also kind of started working already, that has an amount of 10 billion euro and hopes to activate another 30 million of private capital. So a billion, I'm sorry, not million. So we really hope to give a strong push into later stage financing, which is something that is very much lacking at the moment. And it already shows that the number of unicorns, the number of scale-ups, the number of really successful startups in Germany is growing constantly and strongly. So we believe that this is a really important aspect. Another thing that Germany is lacking is skilled labor. And this is something that we addressed also. So first of all, skilled labor that the startups need in order to develop. So we eased the rules for entering Germany, for working in Germany. And for German companies to hire people from abroad, from non-EU countries. And we also eased the rules for startups to engage in employee equity participation. So this is quite an important aspect for startups that can't really pay a lot of salary, but maybe want to give some participation abilities to the employees in order to engage them for a longer term. So we ease the rules for that also. So And also we are working on the ecosystem in Germany, which is also a very important aspect. So we support hubs in Germany that connect startups with corporates and small and medium enterprises, and all together to research institutions and university in order to create a startup-friendly environment, to create an innovation-friendly environment within Germany, where startups from all over the world, but also, of course, German startup can really flourish. And this is the point where I see India coming in. First, as I mentioned, of course, skilled labor is an important aspect, but also the need for ideas. So we want to be more and more open for Indian startups that come to Germany, that want to settle down in our hubs or anywhere else, that want to bring in ideas. It's interesting for us if Indian investors come to Germany. Of course, many of the schemes are only open to investment funds that have their have also a daughter company in Germany, but also on the other hand, right? So we have German companies that now go to India, where they connect with incredible innovative startups and ideas. And where we can collaborate and foster the startup ecosystem on both sides because of the collaboration. Being in India for so long, I know that I think the German Indians, we are really different, but I think the combination of Germany and India will really create something good. And I believe that German and Indian companies can really engage in a very fruitful cooperation.
Indeed. And we see that every day at GINSEP itself when we hear stories of these collaborations. So,
whom am I telling that?
but it's good to hear from the outside world. It's, I mean, the bigger family as well. So,
Yeah.
Dr. Garg, I mean, if you could quickly, answer the same question with an Indian perspective. So when it comes to startup initiatives and policies by your ministry, how do you answer the question, why Germany when it comes to internationalization of startups from India?
Thank you. So whatever Carolyn talked about for enabling the very strong German startup ecosystem, a similar type of initiatives have been taken by the government of India to actually propel the Indian startup ecosystem. Happy to share with you that what we did under the umbrella of the Startup India program was identify the line ministry which can enable startup, and MIT was interested with the deep tech startup ecosystem to prosper. And what we thought upfront was that how can we actually converge the various efforts that are going to create a very strong digital or deep tech startup ecosystem. And that was our focus. So our focus was related to whether we need to nurture more of deep tech startups, whether we need to take early stage startups to the next level, or whether we have to enable funding for them. But above all, how can we create a necessary ecosystem for digital innovation to happen? And as you understand, for digital innovation to happen, yes, a strong startup ecosystem is a must, but above it, you have to provide two other necessary parameters. One is the infrastructure for research and innovation. Second is data for innovation. These are the two enabling blocks that, in addition to a very strong startup ecosystem, that brings in more and more startups. India, through the Startup India program, we created what we call as a technology incubation and development of entrepreneurs, where we established 51 incubators in institutes of higher learning and research to bring in the necessary infrastructure created through public funding for these startups and innovators to innovate through a government program. happy to share with you that this is just an 18-month story, and we have been able to run a lot of successes around it. In addition to that, if you have to have innovation, there should be a method of procurement of that innovation and enabled in a government. Procuring innovation in government is always a challenge, and which is a big market barrier for these startups. We, from last year, have been running a number of challenges that actually has created a route by which we can showcase and provide a proof of concept for these startups to be enabled into a government ecosystem, and it has been a great success. But let me talk about the mighty Startup Hub, whose CEO is also there in this call. So we created an ecosystem where we brought in all the parameters required to support a startup into a single body called the Mighty Startup Hub. It's a very, very novel concept in a sense that it brings in the whole ecosystem, brings in the private sector advantages through a CEO from the private sector into the system, and integrate all of them through a single digital platform and a single enabling block called the Mighty Startup Hub. The Mighty Startup Hub has been a great success story. We are trying to upscale it, and I think that is but as far as data for innovation is concerned, India has a story of a public digital platforms, be it a single digital identity, be it a unified payment interface, which has revolutionized the digital payment space and payment of subsidies to the beneficiaries, be it creating a strong network of fintech ecosystem. So on the digital identity, Aadhaar, 1.25 billion people having a same digital identity, that is a one-stop shop for authentication of your identity. And we are coming up with a large number of, because what we see is that digital will not change the space in silo, but digital will be an enabler for future productivity in all spaces. And here the Indian-German partnerships comes in, because when it comes to automobile sector, when it comes to machinery and precision machineries, when it comes to deep tech, large industry ecosystem, Germany is the country that India looks towards, because the ethical, large, deep tech companies doing the state-of-art product. And here, when they partner with our low-cost robot, very strong solutions from startups, they have a great future ahead. We look forward to BMW, the Volkswagen, and companies, Bosch, and these are the companies that, if our startup ecosystem partner with, they can bring the next generation value to the globe, because we and Germany together will provide digital benefits to the 5.5 billion people, which the proprietary digital platforms have never been able to bring as far as global ecosystem is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Garg. And Caroline as well, it's so great to hear this energizing enthusiasm from both sides. And I think as a moderator, it gives me so much energy to ask the following questions and continue with the panels that we have. We would love to talk more, but we have also a second part of this panel. So I would really like to thank both of you for taking out the time and giving us such insightful overview of what the two governments are doing for collaboration between India and Germany. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
We look forward to a very strong GenSip MSH partnership. Look forward. I'm very excited because Germany is one country I always look forward to visit, and this pandemic has been where I have not visited Germany for 18 months. So look forward to a very strong relationship.
Exactly. We will be happy to welcome you, Mr. Garg. Thank you so much, Tuksha. And thank you so much. Sorry?
I've not seen you in India for that.
Yeah. I'm not a diplomat anymore. I can't come in.
The seafood at the Malta Marg is awaiting you.
Oh yeah, totally. It's terrible. I miss it. No, thank you so much also to GINZEP for the organization. And I'm very much looking forward to the second part of the discussion.
Okay. Thank you. Love these Indo-German talks. I mean, they bring a smile to my face all the time. And now to continue the conversation, I would like to invite the second part of the speakers in the second part of this panel. So the first and foremost is Julian with us right here in the studio, and from GINSEP. Then we have are we good to go? Yeah. Okay. Then we have Stefan Halusa, Director Journal, Indo-German Chamber of Commerce, and Jeet Vijayvargya, CEO of Mighty Startup Hub.
Please turn your camera on.
Okay, nice to see you. Hello, Jeet.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. I wasn't invited to the studio. Still in my office.
You weren't? Okay.
Yeah, should have been in the studio with you guys.
Yes, absolutely. We would have loved that. Maybe for the next event.
Hello, good afternoon. This is Stefan, and I cannot start my video because it was stopped by the host. So obviously you have to enable it, otherwise you will start my video. Okay, now here we go. And good afternoon, everyone.
Okay, so now we can see you and you can see us.
I very much can do so.
Good to see you, Stefan and Jeet.
Good to see you too.
Okay, great. Let's start. So we already had a little bit of overview about the great initiatives of Indo-German collaboration. And now with the three of you, I would love to discuss that what's happening on ground. And talking about what's happening on ground, it would be great to start with Jeet, you, with the Mighty Startup Hub and GINSEP collaboration, that the MOU that also Mr. Garg briefly spoke about. But before that, we had a brief introduction of Mighty Startup Hub, but if you could give us an overview of the structure and the main initiatives and why it is formed and how it's working with the startup ecosystem, particularly in India. Too many questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for invitation to be here today. And it's a great joy to be part of a forum where we have experts from multiple countries talking about how the ecosystems are working. And as Dr. Garg briefly mentioned, under our Honorable Prime Minister, in 2016, when he came, launched the Startup India Mission in 2016. And now within the 5 years, India has become the third largest startup ecosystem with more than 50,000 registered startups. We have got 60 odd unicorns, and increasingly large number of unicorns are being created every year. Now that's just a testament not only to the vision that our Honorable Prime Minister had, but all the hard work that went behind creating that ecosystem. It is the ministers, it is the secretaries in the ministries, it's folks like Dr. Garg who have been leading the charge at the ground by making sure the initiatives are created, the platforms are created, which can connect the startups and bring resources to them. So Mighty Startup Hub is a similar initiative that was created a year and a half ago, and Dr. Garg laid the foundation of it because he realized the need that startups need 3 things. One is reform so that they can have ease of doing business. Second is intervention in terms of capital, because capital markets are inadequate in India at an early stage. And third is resource aggregation. How do you build a platform whereby you can connect the startups to the mentors, investors, service providers, and all these opportunities? And so for him, the vision was, let's create a platform which can be the interface between the ministry and the startup world. And today, we have multiple schemes whereby we are funding startups directly as well as through our incubators. So just, I think last week only we funded 45 odd startups, $50,000 each for early stage grant funding. Similarly, we did something during COVID times, launched a scheme to fund startups that are transitioning during COVID phase into healthcare technologies. So these are targeted direct intervention that the ministry engages in to provide support to startups as a need be. Second is we take a holistic view in terms of the funding allocation. So we have grant all the way from early stage idea level funding to product development funding, to commercialization funding, to scale funding. And ultimately we have what is called fund of fund, which funds the venture funds, which fund our startups. So we provide growth funding through that. So we want to make sure that at every level where there's a need for intervention that the ministry can provide. Second thing that we look at is making sure that we can create synergies and efficiency through deployment of resources more effectively. So all the different schemes for and programs that the ministry has for startups, innovations, and investments, they run through MSH as a single point. Thereby we can create linkages and integration and create synergies for all the schemes and bring the ecosystem together more cohesively. Anyway, so I wouldn't take too much of the time because as Dr. Garg, I'm pretty passionate about Mighty Startup Hub and we can keep talking all day about it. I'm looking forward to hearing from Stefan and Julian.
Yes, and we can also keep hearing about it all day because we are equally excited about it as you are. And we are also excited about the GINSEP MOU with Mighty. And Julian, probably you could, throw some light on what this is all about and what are the expectations in the future from this MOU.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, also I'm really, really excited about the MOU between GINSEP and Mighty Startup Hub that we've just entered in. And the idea was, I mentioned it earlier, that actually in order to reach out local startup ecosystems or local startups, you need different partners. And with a Mighty Startup Hub, they're organized in a way that it's an umbrella. I think Jean mentioned it. It's an umbrella, and then you have different in different regions. You have different centers of excellences, bringing in different expertise, and of course the expertise of the local region and the players and the startups, focusing on different sectors as well. So, and this is for us from a Germany perspective, really, really interesting to access these startups through the Mighty Startup Hub. So this is in the one direction. So from outbound from Germany perspective to offer, to showcase the opportunities in Germany to the respective startups over there. On the other hand, of course, through this entire the same channels, they have the best infrastructure and the best access to the ecosystem there for incoming startups, so outbound from Germany direction. So it should be an eye level and a collaboration there, always thinking a holistic way in this two-way approach, inbound and outbound from both directions. So this is what we're really looking into, and together with MSH, we want to identify a few sectors or few focal areas where we really say and think that, okay, this is really promising. There are startups that want to internationalize, and there might be a good match, a good fit with German startups, so we can do some matchmaking there. But then, of course, also bringing the corporates. And I think this is also, now addressing Stefan, this is where we can also look at the other more established companies, them in as well.
Yes, and I would also like to address Stefan here. So the Indo-German Chamber of Commerce has been incorporated since 1956, and a lot of work has been happening towards Indo-German relations, specifically from your side. So if you could give a little bit of overview in some of the benchmarks that have happened over the last 5 years or so that have had a great impact on Indo-German collaboration, that would be great to zoom into more specific questions that we have.
Sure, thank you very much, and thanks for having me here. Also, as a representative of the old economy, I'm happy to do so, to act as a kind of the dinosaur in the room. But obviously, we are still here and very happy to be part of the discussion, and of course, very happy also and glad to be part of the discussion how we can support startups on either side, on the Indian side as well as on the German side, and the collaboration between the two ecosystems. For me, it's a bit difficult to say what has changed over the last 5 years on the ground, because I personally have only been on the ground for a little over 1 year. So I can only look a little bit into the framework and what has been changing. I mean, obviously, both governments put a lot more attention on Indo-German relationships in general, in all areas, whether it's political, whether it's business, and that has been going on for a number of years already, not only since 2016, but also before. We have the Indo-German governmental consultations, which were started in 2011, and it's one of the few intergovernmental consultations that Germany has with non-EU countries. And that has an impact also on the business, because in that context, the number of initiatives have been started on the government level through working groups on different sectors, automotive, for example, but also there's an Indo-German digital working group that has been established and that is formed by representatives of both sides, and it's a business-driven approach. So many businesses are represented in that working group, and that is good for us, I think, and good for our members, because it makes these initiatives much more concrete, much more tangible, in the sense that we can really have discussions about concrete issues and problems and issues that we have between India and Germany on terms of, in the digital area, standardization for sure, data protection, data security, and that helps us hopefully to jointly move things forward and ahead, which is definitely going to be helpful for the businesses on both sides. And of course, I should absolutely not forget that in 2017, then also GINSEP was incorporated as a initiative for Indo-German startup exchange, and I can only congratulate GINSEP for this great event, having the startup week for the second time, and also, of course, for concluding the MOU with the Mighty Startup Hub. I think that is also very, very important step forward, as it has already been pointed out.
Thank you very much. And one follow-up question as well. So since you said that you work with established companies and, that's where the most focus is. So where do you feel startups could actually fit into your current initiatives, or already fit into your present initiatives?
I think they already do fit into our current initiatives. I mean, the mission of a bilateral chamber is basically provide information. The mission of the chamber is to build up a network of different businesses in both countries. I mean, it's as much for Indian companies entering or planning to enter Germany, as well as for German companies entering India. And what you need is basically, again, it's information, it's network, it's being part of this group and benefiting from experience that has already been made. And I think you mentioned at the beginning, we've been incorporated 65 years ago, obviously focusing on the good old industry for the longest time. But at the same time, this is changing. We have an increase of digital companies joining. We have an increase of service company joining. And the markets are different. And India is different from Germany. And to benefit from companies and from working with companies and learning from companies who have already been here for decades in some areas, that will help a lot. And it will also help, now talking about German startups or companies coming to India, it will help to understand the specific challenges and the specific requirements in the Indian market. And I think this is, again, not related to any specific business model you may have. This is always a great advantage to really fully and better understand the unique requirements that each country has.
Indeed, I couldn't agree more on that. And talking about, cross-border collaborations, Jeet, when it comes to Mighty Startup Hub, and you already mentioned the initiatives and schemes there, but when it comes to internationalization, India specifically has been focused on the US for a very long time. So, how do Indian startups look at Europe or specifically Germany when it comes to their internationalization efforts? And and what role do you have to play in this?
Thank you so much. I think that's a bit of a tricky question because when we look at it, from a government perspective, we believe in that philosophy that our prime minister talks about: one world, one people, right? So his philosophy has always been, let's create things together, and wherever we can compete, we compete, but wherever we can collaborate, we should collaborate. US has been a destination for talent for a long time, and maybe it's the the language, maybe it's the culture, maybe it's the ethnographic attributes that are prevalent when you compare it to Europe or in Germany particularly, right? So that has been a destination for a long time. But when we start looking at it, where is the talent today going and where it's coming from? If you look at it, largest number of German companies outside of Germany are in Pune, in India, right? That's where the automotive hub was. So the automotive sector, literally Germany did a lot to contribute to its growth in India. Now, when we are looking at now, as Mighty Startup Hub, one of our mandate is to build the global linkages with our startup ecosystems around the world. So we do have programs ongoing with France currently, whereby we are looking at some French startups and incubators working together with the Indian startups and incubators. So there is that cross-pollination and sharing of ideas, culture, values, technologies, and network. Similarly, we have things going on with UK, a couple of different programs running with UK right now. And our motivation behind getting into this engagement with GenSep is to figure out how can India and Germany, which share a lot of similar values, ethos in particular, in terms of the worldview, in terms of civilization, in terms of the multipolarity of the world techno-socio-economic structures. How can we all collaborate together? Sorry, I'm having a bad throat. Just suffering from a bit of a cold.
No problem.
Sorry about that. So the idea is figuring out how do we build the ecosystem together. So now the idea will be it in 5G, be it in robotics, be it in drone technologies, where does the India's needs and capabilities lie, and how do we marry them with what German ecosystem has to offer to us? So under this MOU, working with Julian and team, we'll figure out the startups and the incubators and the capital flow and linking them together to make sure that be it the development of technologies, be it the market penetration, be it the access to capital, how can that be provided to startups from both the sides? I'll leave my answer at that for now.
Yeah. And I think, Julian, you already spoke about it in the beginning, but I will rephrase that question to you. In terms of what are the main 3 challenges that startups face when they are expanding from India to Germany? Or if you also want to answer vice versa, but probably my question is more from India to Germany.
Actually, it applies to both sides, and that is the interesting part that we figured out. It applies to both the sides, to Indian startups and to German startups. I called it initially the lack of orientation, right? So maybe to differentiate a little bit, the top 3 would be, I think, the understanding of the market. So understanding of the geography of the different hubs, really of the market, which region is the best to go to, but also who are the main players, the main enablers or competitors or potential cooperation partners or like startups, of course also corporates. So this is where it starts, and and this is also one of the main challenges where I see that even established startups face still or have this lack of understanding of the other market. The other one is then, of course, more concrete, a little about the business model, the go-to-market strategy, to adapt it, and their lack of mentorship might be also a thing that is definitely something we are also addressing. So to what extent the business model has to adapt, or the product or the service has to be adapted in the respective other market. And the last challenge is something very important, is the different culture. So this is still always underestimated, that the other culture, the not only the language, but so in a more figurative way, also the business culture in India is different than in Germany. And of course, from the respective perspective, it is very, very challenging to overcome this challenge. And there, when it comes to building trust, when it comes to sales, when it comes to simple communication per email, per phone, things work simply differently in the other markets. So this is why we always say, like, please cooperate, please try to identify cooperation partners in the other country. And this is again why we want as specific, as local as possible, different let's say different partners that we can work with and that we identify. And this is why I think also this MOU now with MSH is so important, to add a different layer again of many partners. So Jeet and I got to sit down and identify the sectors and the startups that we need to focus on, and also the matters that we need to focus on. And from there we'll take it and hopefully also overcome or contribute to overcoming the three challenges I just mentioned.
Yeah, well, that's beautifully put, because Julian, you and I both have worked in India and Germany, and we know that, these simple things like communication, culture play such an important role. But the beautiful part is that when we come together, great things happen and we create good stuff, also like the Indo-German Startup Week. I would also like to remind all the participants to please send your questions, because in some time we will start the audience interaction. And before that, I still have one question which never gets old. We ask it every time and we get a different answer, or I would rather say a more enhanced answer for it, which is that what are the sectors for collaboration between India and Germany? And I would love to hear from our three speakers. So probably start with you, Jeet. When it comes from your role and what you are doing at Mighty Startup Hub, we already spoke about deep tech startups, but more specifically, if you have some examples of where you see this collaboration in terms of sectors and domains going between India and Germany.
Yeah, thank you. I think, India is a rainbow of opportunities. And the whole concept of startup is that you capitalizing on the opportunities. If you look at it, I think the hardware sector, automotive sector, healthcare sector, these are the sectors, I think, where the role of emerging technology like IoT, AI, can play a really significant role in terms of how do we shift the paradigm of development, which is environmentally friendly, economically viable, and socially acceptable. So using technology to address the sustainable development goals, but at the same time be inclusive. And because now with the emerging technologies and the role they play in various sectors, it can have a huge impact. But we need to make sure the impact is positive, it's inclusive, and it's for the betterment of everyone, not just the ones making it and not just the ones who are buying it. It's for all of the humanity.
And Stefan, what would you like to add to this in terms of sectors where you see collaboration specific?
Collaboration? No, thank you. I mean, I agree to everything that Jeet has said in terms of the topics, in terms of the industries that are basically currently dominating the Indo-German economic relationships. So I think this will stay. You mentioned it: automotive, machinery, chemicals, pharmaceuticals. Maybe there are some areas where we would like to see an increase. They are going into the one direction is sustainability, as you said, the increase of renewable energy, This is obviously an area of collaboration that starts with the production of energy, the consumption of energy, the grids that will be necessary to be efficient. So I see one big area there. Second big area is definitely the health sector. I think that the recent pandemic has shown us that there are some vulnerabilities in the health sector, and this is something where I think collaboration can have a great effort on the society. And to a similar extent that I think would also apply to everything that is going into logistics infrastructure, digital or physical infrastructure also. So also there, the pandemic has shown how vulnerable we are when it comes to also supplying the people with what they need most. And I think this is also something where the collaboration, not only between India and Germany, but the collaboration between the industries, the collaboration between startups and established players can create great benefits for everyone.
Thank you, Stefan. And Julian, from you, you already have, like, I think, specific examples for this to give us an answer in terms of what are the sectors where we are already seeing collaboration between startups.
Yeah, basically, we GINSEP works sector agnostic, and we decided to keep it sector agnostic. Is also that we want to be demand oriented, right? So if there's a startup that reaches out to us, we say like, well, let's take this up. And I think one characteristic that India and Germany has in common is actually both the startup ecosystems are not restricted to particular sectors. Yes, of course, they're particularly strong in sectors, but actually you see a startup activity across all domains and across all sectors. However, basically the ones that Jeet and Stefan have mentioned are particularly, where I also see particularly potential, are mobility, healthcare, and then industrial digitization. This is what we termed it, where it comes logistics and robotics. Industrial IoT solutions. So there I see most of the potential, because I simply see most of the activities taking place there. But maybe less of a sector, but this overall topic of impact and sustainability across all the sectors has been becoming more and more important. Last but not least, also when we did I mentioned that for us that is always a sign to see how hot a certain topic is. When we organize the digital delegation trips and we're addressing these kind of topics, we get particularly many applications for this. So we also see that this is really something that many startups are focusing on. So that also applies to Germany and India. So I think this impact and sustainability focus across different sectors is really, really important here.
Yeah. Okay, and as we speak, we also have some questions here. Some of them are also what we have, but let's take one here. So one is about internationalization, and it says that as the pandemic has hit, travel has not been very, as we can see, travel is not smooth between India and Germany. And how can we look at internationalization in times of pandemic? And this is open to all panelists, so please volunteer who would like to take that up.
That's a very good question, and I think it bothers almost every company, because absolutely we have been restricted in international travels for in many ways, and we're not where we wanted to be. On the other hand, I think that it has also, it could be seen that many companies and organizations have actually been able to overcome the situation by turning to digital collaboration tools. Whatever, I mean, we are using one right now as well, and obviously now there's a faster than we have probably seen it before or have anticipated it before. Many of the organizations matured in that area of digital collaboration much better than we would have anticipated. Now, of course, the next level and the next challenge will be to combine, once hopefully traveling will be allowed again, is really to intelligently combine those digital means of collaboration and communication with the necessity to still meet in person for many different aspects. It's a very good, I think, addition to the communication, but it does not replace human interaction in general or in total.
Yeah.
I'd like to add something on that. I totally agree with Stefan here. And actually, traveling is a must after all. If you want to do business in the other country, you have to go there and have a look. However, I think many things can be done also before, so can be done digitally. As we saw, and I was really surprised, and it was an eye opener for me when we organized this digital delegation and other online formats, that many things can be done. Like all the research can be done before. You can even start building your network before. Yes, building trust and really working on these relationships is really a challenge. And of course also networking, because networking at offline events, well, this is much more natural. This is the way it works. And it's more difficult digitally. But many things can be done online before when it comes to the preparation. So, and this has the advantage that it saves lots of resources, monetarily, environmentally, and of course also when it comes to the time of traveling. So I think it's better, or it's best to or like Stefan said, to intelligently really combine them and do some preparation remotely, and then when really everything is prepared, then you start traveling and then you see how it goes. So we saw for sure that it's decelerating, the pandemic is decelerating the activities, but still there are new ways to also tackle it and to do it, and I think that is also more sustainable again.
So there's a follow-up to that. I love it. It's Priya Atri, and she asks that I would like to know the view of panelists about remote economy, digital nomads, and seriousness towards this, and how does this fit between Indo-Germans? And can workstations be developed for startups and for team retreats as well?
One comment on this right away, and we'll address this topic on Thursday, on the Talent Day. So there will be sessions particularly on this topic.
Okay. Jeet, do you have something to add?
No, I think I'll leave it for this session. I think it's going to be a good session, so I won't steal that thunder now. Let's have them attend the session.
But I think it's, I personally, I'm not a panelist, but I'm the moderator, and I support digital nomads and remote working a lot. And this,
I think it's if I just may add one thing, because of course again we are all seeing this advantages of and the challenges of remote working, and we will have to address to it. Period. We have to find ways to enable it. If we want to be open as an organization, and that probably applies even less to us, is we want to be open to global talents, and we cannot make them come to where we work. We will have to bring the work to where they are. So we have to find a way of facilitating that. And I mean, at least in our specific case, first of all, we need to actually build up the infrastructure, because we are not there yet. So it really, I guess, something that will take us probably a year or so to enable our organizations in terms of infrastructure and in terms of processes and procedures to actually be there. And then again, I think it's a must to find and define those ways to have remote teams working together. But now I'm very much looking forward to the panel on Thursday. I hope that from there I will get the solutions that we are currently still searching for.
yes, that is.
Yeah, same here. I'm also really looking forward to that, because it's a very important topic that you come across, well, all of us also in everyday life, but also the startups, right? So I come across many Indians that are about or have their contracts in hand to start working in Germany, but they can't travel yet, right? So it comes on a of course the legal framework of it, but then also the building the team again, right? So how do we want to be part of a team? If you're not there, right? So to meet the colleagues, to mingle with them. So there are many different challenges that we also know, and there are also many different preferences among individuals then again. So I think it's really a really interesting, important topic. So that's why we dedicated a whole day also to talent that we'll be tackling on Thursday. So I'm also really excited about this.
And if you allow me, I do have to do a little bit of marketing here now, because obviously the IGCC, we have 6 offices in all over India. It's not remote work, but if somebody wants to use our offices, one of our offices, a touchdown place for part of his team, we'll be happy to provide it. So please contact us, and we can work out a solution there as well that may help you.
Wow, that's a generous offer. I might take it up.
Okay.
After this.
Anytime.
Yeah. And we have one question for Julian as well. What is the support with investments from GINSEP?
We support with investments. Actually, we have 3 topics or 3 pillars that we're working on. In general, it's market access. That is most of our work, providing information and context there. Then the second one is talents. I just mentioned it. So that is also one of the pilot projects where we see or try to facilitate how to bring together, how to overcome this lack of skilled labor in Germany and bring together bring together talent and the startups. And the third one is indeed capital. And there it is we would like to bring together startups and investors as well. So this is why we're launching the Indo German Investor Circle on Friday. So now this is, I think it was not a big announcement that I'm doing that now because it's there on the agenda already. But so this is why we're exactly tackling this, to bring together the investors to collaborate, because so far there is not so much happening as a collaboration between the investments between India and Germany. So we would like to facilitate that. Having said that, I'm not sure if the question is coming from India directly, but there are many Indians that reach out to us, say like, well, I'm looking to raise funds in Germany. Can you help us out? And this is something that is really difficult, I must say, because for most of the usually you'd have to be incorporated over here. And actually my experience is also that it's easier to raise funds in India directly rather than as a foreigner come to Germany and raise funds here. In fact, many German startups over here don't raise funds in Germany, but raise it from Europe or even outside of Europe. So we would like to tackle that by really founding this Indo-German Investor Circle and work on that topic and address it there as well to facilitate it also better in future.
And of course, you can get all these answers on Investor Day as well. So it's great to know that we are getting these questions, because we'll be going in deeper into all these topics over the subsequent days of the Indo-German Startup Week. And I am just checking, so I think we are done here. And probably a concluding one sentence from all panelists would be great in terms of what would you like the participants to take away from this panel? A line or two that is your message to Indian and German startups. So Stefan, with you we start.
Sure. There's a great potential in Indo-German relationships, business relationships, and as you have seen, there are many initiatives, associations that are here to help. So just get in touch.
Okay, and reach out for that office space in the 7 countries as well. And second,
cities, 7 cities.
Sorry, 7 cities. I got greedy. So then Jeet, from you.
Oh yeah, thank you so much. And the only thing I'll say is that India is ripe for opportunities. There's a ton of effort, concentrated effort from the government. So reach out to Invest India, reach out to us, reach out to other agencies and departments, and trust me, there's something happening with every ministry. And we would love to figure a way out to bring more and more collaborations between Germany and India to the front. So please reach out to us, and we'll be happy to figure things out for you.
Our very own Julian.
Yeah, in order to make use of that potential, build your network and start building your network today itself by using the launch on the tool And in the afternoon, there's dedicated 1 hour to reach out to all the panelists or the organizations that are there behind the panelists. That applies to the entire week, but for every day, this is really important to network, to build your network there in order to get more understanding, more expertise also for your further steps to internationalize.
Yes.